yeah, I just mean that. I just mean, like mom and dad had to go. I'd much rather be there and where I can go sit easy but it's super nice.
My mom was at Lotus, and it was nice.
Well, I could feel it.
We drown. But this just flowed so much better than that.
Yeah. No, they did a good job.
Super good.
Yeah.
How many beds is it?
32 or 36 total.
Yeah.
12 of them are memory care, and then there's a certain number of them that have like a one-room bed, a one-room. So
I like
a living
those.
room and
I like those that they can actually have a living room. Yeah. Other
You're not
ones,
just in a
other ones, you're lazy
hospital
boys right next to your bed,
Yeah, yeah.
and they don't provide the beds. So
my mom's ridiculous.
yeah,
But they don't do that because
they want you to bring yours,
their
and
own stuff,
yeah,
so that they're comfortable and feel
yeah,
like they're on.
And then if like you ruin it in a way or something like that, then you're kind of taking care of it, so they're not kind of replacing
You
things.
bet.
So it's kind of move in, move out type things, because that would be a lot of.
But the rooms that didn't have the living room is big enough that two people could be.
Well, did you see there was a couple's names on a door?
Is there?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they said they're gonna start Monday.
Yeah, I don't think they're moving people in Monday. I think that's a week and a half away.
Move stuff or.
No, it's the management company is going to start moving all their stuff in. Yeah,
Seem to have it all together.
yeah.
The guy that took us on the tour was over the management.
Oh, okay.
And
Vance. Yeah, yeah. But no, it'll be a good thing.
some of the programs that they were talking about doing, they want to get a little reading program going over there.
So donate books and stuff too.
And
That'd be kind of. I was going to say that would be kind of fun for the kids to go over there after school and.
spot because it's close to a church.
Yeah, no, I don't.
Campus isn't very far.
Well, that's what Cody Reese told me 7 years ago. He's like, John, if I could just move into an assisted living place, pay $5,000 a month, they do my laundry, they change my sheets,
Well, and that's
I get 3 meals. I get 3 meals a day. I can go to work and come home.
Kind of like prison, but a little bit more expensive.
Yeah, a little bit more expensive, yes.
But like where my mom was, this is your base price, and then you want this.
Yes,
it's more.
you go a la
This-
carte.
This one is all, and so that includes housekeeping, it includes laundry. If they don't want to do it, they have a place where the people can go and do their laundry by themselves.
Yeah.
So
Well, I was talking to Steve. Look at you, man.
Barely.
Did you take 89 and 84?
No, by the time I got close to it, it was cleared
It was
up.
cleared up? Good.
I was in Provo all day.
oh, I'm sorry. Provo's
That's not a fun, yeah.
Actually,
just
all
the
this week.
traffic there.
Monday, Provo. Wednesday, Provo. Tuesday, I was just in Salt Lake. Wednesday, Provo.
That's
today,
bad
Provo.
enough.
Just Utah Valley, I think those roads are horrible. People
It's so
drive
crazy.
bad.
No, fast is good.
Well, but they're not very nice.
I know, you'd hate me.
You would hate me too.
I'm one of those guys.
You're not
I
a
am
nice
not.
guy.
Yeah.
Good to know.
No.
Neither's Mark.
I got flipped off yesterday. She's sitting there texting, and I'm alongside her. I'm right there by the I-80 exit going north. So it's just a cluster there anyway, because people are trying to get to the 201. They're,
Yeah.
all that crap. And
Rough spot.
she's sitting there texting, and I'm like, beep beep. And it wasn't an FU honk. It was just a beep beep, right? Like, hey, look up, drive. And so when I passed her, got over into the fast lane and passed her, I had one of these.
Oh, so you.
I got flipped off, yeah.
Won't even look at
No,
me.
she wouldn't even look, because I just waved at her. So I asked him, I says, does Medicare help these people just in the assisted side? He's like, no, it's all self-pay. That's 60-something grand a year. For our assisted living. They have their open house tonight. So I was just kind of curious because I've never been involved in one of those, but $5,300 to live there, and it's
We have an iPhone guest.
like I'd have to sell my house.
Does she listen to
You have to save your money if you're gonna go into one of them.
Yeah, yeah, you'd have to sell your house, and that money would have to go towards it.
Unless she's the iPhone guest.
It's 9 to 6. Yeah, but he said if the council ever wants to just come over,
Well, my wife was gonna go talk to him because she was like, "Yeah, go get a job." She's a nurse.
oh, is she? Oh, man.
You need me to call it?
Did you go over?
Today? No, I was in Provo.
Recording in progress.
I was going to, and then I forgot. Then I thought about it, and I forgot again. And
I wanted to go over there, actually.
by the time you get done running kids around, and
Yep. Empty house today.
Jan's on Zoom.
And Jan just said she's growing up, so she doesn't want to be here. But
She wasn't feeling good last meeting.
She's on Zoom.
Okay. I just texted him. Hello. Good, sir.
Sorry I didn't make it home in time to go over there with you.
No, that's okay. It's really cool. That's what I was telling Adam. They said just come over anytime.
Oh, really?
If you want to go through it. Yeah, you just missed a pulled pork sandwich and
Yeah.
watermelon, and
I'd like to. My sister-in-law toured the place. She said it was awesome.
it's really,
It's nice.
yeah. Yeah, I think that'll be
how
a
many
nice.
beds are there?
32, I think she said.
32 beds.
Yeah. There's 12 memory care, and
Bigger than I expected.
the rest are, there's some that are just like a bathroom and a bedroom, you know, that's it. Then there's some that have a separate bedroom with a little living room. And I say little,
Yeah,
like put a couch and a
yeah.
lazy boy in there and it's chock full.
I can imagine.
But at least it's separate, right? Like, it feels more like a home at that point, you know? It's not crazy big, but I mean, it holds the amount of residents they have. But like, there was one door that had couples, stuff on there. All right. I don't have my stuff.
Will you ask Jan the microphone she can hear?
Jan, you there?
Yeah,
Now
can you
mine.
guys hear me?
Yes,
Okay, good.
you sound a little stuffy.
Oh, I wish it was only sinuses. I don't dare come and get anybody else sick with what I've got. It might be,
Thanks,
it might
Jan.
be a tad of food poisoning. I'm not sure.
Oh no.
All right. It is time to call the city council meeting to order. Today, the 15th of May. Welcome, everybody, and Zoomland, and here, and I'll take the Pledge of Allegiance for Councilman Panunzio, if you'll give us a word of prayer, Councilman
Yes,
Jenkins. Thank you.
absolutely.
Everybody, please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dear kind Father in heaven, we are indeed grateful for this beautiful day. We're thankful for the great weather that we've been experiencing. We're thankful for this beautiful city, Plain City, and the citizens thereof. And please bless that we can have thy spirit with us tonight, that we can make good and correct decisions for the citizens of this city. We love thee, and we say these things in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. All right. First item is approval of the minutes from May 1st. Anybody have any corrections?
If there's no comments, I move to approve minutes from the May 1st, 2025 meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Jan.
Sorry.
I wasn't meaning that because you coughed. I meant to welcome you in Zoomland as well. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine, thanks.
Hope you get feeling well soon.
Me too.
All right, next item, public comments. I see no public. Anybody in Zoomland? All right, seeing none, we will go on to Planning Commission report. Howdy.
How's it going? So last week we met. We had a discussion on the ordinance regarding the discharge of water from the property. We had a public hearing about the changes that we made. We discussed at the meeting before, and didn't have anybody with any comments. And then we voted on it, and it's been sent to you for recommended for approval.
It's in legal right now, just
Okay.
so you know, at our next meeting, we should have them.
Okay. After that, we went over the development agreement. We worked with the Hanson Group to fix some of the wording on that, and think we have it good for now. And so we've approved that, or recommended that for approval to you as well. And then we had discussion about the Title IX building regulations. And I'm forgetting what that was about. Do you remember what that was about? It was Title IX building regulations.
Oh, that was one of the ordinance changes, to have all of the improvements done before.
Oh, that's right.
Building permit.
Yeah, we're changing the wording so we make sure the public improvements get done before they issue building permits. That was by Dan's request. And then that's all we had. So,
Okay.
do you have anything for me to take back?
I do not. Any council members?
All right, thank you.
Thanks,
guys.
Rob. All right, next item is discussion motion on the contract with Legislative Solutions. Come on up, Mr. Gibson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You want to give us a little rundown of what we've done? It's been 4 years, right?
I don't think
3?
so. I think more like 2.5 or 3, but we're.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3.5 going on 4.
That's how I remember it.
Yep.
All right. Well, so first of all, let me start out by just saying I apologize for any confusion that there might have been with the contract the way it was. The way that I do my contracts, and I think it's kind of standard in the industry, very standard in the industry, is they're set up as yearly contracts. Most contract lobbyists do this as most of them actually require a 100% payment at the beginning of the contract for the entire year. I've found, especially because I work with smaller municipalities sometimes, that it's easier to split those up into 12-month periods. And I felt like, so I look at these contracts as kind of a year. I try to base them on a calendar year basis. The legislative session starts in January. That obviously front loads a lot of our effort, right? Because we're 24/7 during that period, where obviously we have a lot of work that we do throughout the year. But during the legislative session is where we really earn our keep, hopefully, right? That's the goal. And most of my counterparts are really uncomfortable, working through the legislative session and then not being retained throughout the rest of the year. So that's why I always look at a calendar year contract. In our last contract that we renewed, when I renewed all of my contracts for that year, we put language in all of those contracts that basically said that the contract would automatically renew, but of course is subject to the 30-day out clause. The reason that I do that is because I truly don't want to be in any circumstance with any of my clients where they're not happy with our performance. And so I feel like, like it's very important to have an opportunity for a council at any time, not just at a yearly renewal, but at any time to say, are we getting what we thought we were getting, right? Are we getting our money's worth? And so it is fairly unique in the industry to have those 30-day outs. I saw some language that Diane had sent to me from the attorney that said we should be able to get out of these contracts at any time. And I agree with that. I'm just telling you that's not really standard in the industry.
Not common practice.
It's not common practice because, again, a lot of that work is front-loaded, right? So as I reviewed, I will admit I was surprised to see that there was some question as to whether or not we were actually under contract at this point. But which is why I didn't come to you in December like I have in the past, because my understanding was that it would automatically renew unless you gave me the 30-day notice and said we don't want you anymore. That being said, I think that there was one word in the Plain City contract that wasn't in my other one, or that was left out of the Plain City contract that was in all the other ones that said automatically. And so to me, automatically renewed. To me, that's where the confusion probably came from for me. And I can understand why there may have been a question as to whether or not we were actually under contract. So here we are. As I was, once we realized that we needed to come and do this again, my thought was, I doubt that they would want me to come in the middle of the year right now to make sure we take care of this period, this year that we're in, and then come back again in November to take care of, to renew again. So I wrote this, put my interpretation in this latest one where it would run through the end of next year. Now,
Well, and you and I discussed that as well.
we discussed that ahead of time. That was my attempt at clarifying the situation and making it so we weren't back here in 2 or 3 months. That being said, I'm happy however you want to do it. I will say that it, like, I would hope that whatever you decide to do for next year is of course a decision for this body. But I would hope that you would recognize the work that's already been done front-loaded this year, and make sure that because I do budget very tightly to for the year period, the calendar year period, and then I categorize all that as we head into the next legislative session, so that I know what my budget is going forward for the next year. So I would hope that you would at least strongly consider keeping us going the way we're going throughout the rest of this year. That being said, I'm just going to be honest. As I've told you before, I'm a small shop. I partner with other people, but I don't want to be the biggest shop in town. I think it gives me more credibility with legislators when I don't have conflicts, when I don't have a ton of other conflicts in my clients. They know who I represent. They know who I work for. And I'm not faced. I mean, I've seen lobbyists who are faced in the last week of the session when the budget's being done, faced with some real ethical dilemmas, because if you're going to get one ask, who do you prioritize, right? Or two or three or whatever. And so to me, it makes a lot more sense to keep it small. And so I care deeply about Plain City. That's all there is to it. I don't live within your city limits, but it's my hometown. It always has been. It's the place where I play ball. It's the place where I come to the 4th of July. It's my hometown. And I love working for you. And I love being a part of building this community. That's my goal, is to help build this community. If there's ever a point that we're not building like I feel comfortable that we can, you won't have to fire me. I'll fire myself, because I care enough about this community to want it to succeed. So as far as reporting, I was here a few months ago reporting. Didn't bring up the contract for the reasons I just explained, but we've had a pretty good run, a really good run. We've had opportunities in the last couple years that we have as a team have had to create from scratch. For instance, the first check that we were able to bring to Plain City for $875,000 through the ARPA grant fund was a grant fund that we had worked on for 2 years before I became employed with Plain City, right? And we developed a program where that grant fund was formed. We created the process in which it was going to be appropriated, and worked with the legislature to make sure that we qualified for the projects that we were working on under that process. And I think we've proven, I can stand here with a clear conscience and say that I think we've proven our worth many times over throughout this last couple of years.
Can I put you on hold for just one sec?
Yes.
So the year before we hired Carrie to help us out, Dan and I had applied for some of those ARPA funds. And I don't remember who I was talking to, but they laid out the way that those ARPA funds were going to be picked or selected, who was going to get that money. And they formed a committee, and I know the Deal, what's his name? Cameron Deal with the league.
Cities and towns.
He was one of the voting members. Then they picked some other bodies to provide people to select. But I mean, we had a shovel-ready project. We had what everybody told us was, hey, that's a great project. We weren't asking for the full amount. We were funding about $900,000 of it and asking for $875,000. And it was very discouraging when I heard how it all got distributed. And it was all through lobbyists, right? They all went to fight for that money for the cities they represented or whatever municipalities they were fighting for. And so I called Kerry and asked him, I says, what is this? What is this process? And he laid it out for me, and he says, unfortunately, this is the process. If you don't have representation, more than likely you're not going to get looked at, really, because you get the presentation time, but it's the work after that where you get ranked. And so, I can go and present till I'm blue in the face, but it's that once the doors are closed and the people are walking out that those conversations happen. And we had no representation, and so we just didn't cut the mustard. And so that's when I talked to Carrie and said, how do we do this? And that's how this whole ball started rolling. And then sure enough, that next year we applied and we got the $850, $875, whatever it was.
And let me just give you an example. That year that we got the $875, we were told, we were actually cleared for $1 million. I did have a little bit of a frustration that we didn't ask for $1 million, but that it is what it is, right? The $1 million was the limit. No one could get more than $1 million. It was a $50 million fund, but it was 490 something that that was applied for. So like there were a lot of big cities, a lot of people, a lot of small cities that didn't get in on that. Like, so I guess I'm just explaining that not to pat myself on the back, but we wouldn't have
Well,
got
we would have been in the same boat.
We would have been in the same boat.
We would have been in the same boat.
There is a process. It's complicated. There's a lot of behind the scenes moving parts. There is a process that we all have to go through. I know Councilmember Favero has seen a lot of that through his work with the league. You know, the mayor has come up and testified in committee meetings as we've made requests and presentations. And the reality is, as he has come and done that, I mean, everybody does that. You have to do that as part of the process, but it's not that presentation that's gonna win the day, right? It's the time before, during, and after. It's every day, every single day as I'm looking at legislators that they're saying, I know you represent Plain City, what can we do? And that's what happened this last round when a year ago in the legislative session, we made our presentation. We weren't granted through the regular legislative process, but then 6 months later, because we kept our foot on the gas through the process, 6 months later, we were able to get the money, the $650,000 that we just got that we just cashed within about the last 6 months. Because again, we had been there, we had followed the process, they've heard from me over and over again, and all of a sudden, another opportunity came up that was outside of what we had originally looked at, and that's where that last funding source came from. So it's being in the game all the time. One of my favorite quotes from Wayne Gretzky is, I miss 100% of the shots I don't take. And I just want you to know that as your consultant representative, I'm up there taking shots all day, every day. And when those shots are, some of them are gonna go in and some of them aren't. But it's a matter of being there and being willing to take the shots, being in the game and taking the shots. So I think it's going really good, guys and gals. I think it's going wonderful. I think we're well up over $1.5 million in the two appropriations that we brought. And I think there's other things outside of financial, money that I think is harder to put a finger on. And I shared this in my last report, but in all honesty, you never know when these things are going to happen and when you're going to be playing offense, when you're going to be playing defense. There was a big push for the Great Salt Lake, to save the Great Salt Lake the last couple of years, and rightfully so. But sometimes the solutions we found out were hard on communities, and sometimes especially small communities. And there was a bill that would have completely, we had just received money for this sewer plant that year, the 875. And this bill pops up and was rolling and would have passed in its current form, that would have completely rendered our sewer plant illegal in the state of Utah because it's an evaporative system. And that was determined to be something that wasn't, for some reason, playing into the saving of the Great Salt Lake. It was our amendment that kept us from having to rebuild that thing completely right after we had just started the Headworks project. It would have not.
Is that when they allowed the land out?
Exactly. And so if it wasn't for our amendment, it would have cost literally this city tens of millions of dollars to rebuild a sewer plant or more.
He's much more, he knows.
And so those are the kind of things that, that's the value, I think, of having someone on a year retainer like that when these things come up, we are in the game and we are paying attention and we can make quick adaptive changes, because one mistake like that can cost us an awful lot.
Well, in that first year's money, if I remember right, that wasn't appropriated during the session. That was actually, I think, June or July, when you called and you said, John, we have 1 week to get this application in. you know, and we worked with Dan, we got it in. I don't even think it was open for a week.
It was open for,
It was a very
open
short
for a few
window. that-
hours.
Had we not been sitting in front of a computer, checking the state's website, we wouldn't have seen that window open. And that's, you know, we just wouldn't have.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
So I think, I guess the value is in two things. It's, you know, I feel good justifying our work on the money that we've been able to bring to the table directly. I think what you pay me is a small fraction of what we've brought to the table so far, but I think that there are times for defense as well. And as my dad used to always say, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And I think the city has done good work in a lot of ways to be at the table in the things that we do, and I'm grateful to be a part of that.
when I got to thinking about a month ago about with our phosphorus levels that we have to record now when we can only discharge X amount per year, and with nitrogen that we now have to measure that we never had to measure before. Our plant does not naturally get rid of nitrogen.
No.
And so we would be in that tens of millions to build something to take care of nitrogen. And believe it or not, the Great Salt Lake can use nitrogen and phosphorus, which is a really good fertilizer. But the EPA is the ones pushing this, and I called Carrie and I says, can you see if you can get us a sit down with John Curtis, and who's a state senator,
U.S. Senator.
U.S. Senator, and so we've got a meeting set up third week of June. We'll be going down to his office in Salt Lake and meeting with him to bring this up. And I've been in touch with 2 other lagoon systems, and I think there's about 26 or so, I think Dan told me, other lagoon systems that, you know, I think if we work together and show some kind of stance together, you know, we'll definitely get more attention that way. And so once we have our conversation with Senator Curtis, I'm going to start making phone calls to those other lagoon system operators and see if we can't kind of get together and fight this a little bit so that we can, I mean, we're not even at 50% capacity. I think we're about 35, 40, you know, so we've got some long life left in our plant, and I'd hate to see that get pushed away just because the EPA needs something to do.
Yeah. And I, again, Senator Curtis, my relationship with him goes back 12, 14 years, right? And he was a mayor of Provo when I was county commissioner, and we became friends. And you know, it's tough to get directly to Senator Curtis. It really is. You can get his staff and get a response to an email, but to get a direct sit-down visit with him is tough to do. But he was quick to respond and say, yeah, we're happy to meet with Plain City. I don't Plain City generally wouldn't have those kind of opportunities, you know, because we're a small city. We're not one that let's just say we're not one that probably is going to swing his election, right? And so there's got to be something else that's going to motivate him to support us. And in this case, it was a 15-year-old relationship, you know. So we don't know exactly what he'll be able to do, but he does have a very robust team when it comes to constituent affairs and dealing with these kinds of issues, and I have faith that he'll hear us on these EPA issues. And frankly, with the administration that we have right now, the timing is good for this kind of conversation. I mean, it may be bad for other things, but for this particular conversation, this is a good time to be talking about how to give local communities more control of EPA requirements, how to give the state of Utah more strength in the primacy process. Primacy meaning the federal government designates a lot of the federal requirements to the state and gives them what we call primacy, as long as they are meeting basic requirements of the federal government. And that's really what we need more of. We need to have more of these decisions made locally instead of in some room in Washington, D.C. where nobody can get to them, you know, to those bureaucrats. And so I think this is a good time to keep the pedal to the metal on those types of things.
Comments, questions? Bring them up.
I just have a few questions. I mean, so we'll go back to the term, Carrie, that you talked about before. So you're saying that you would at least want to get paid for this year because you've already started the legislative session and everything. That makes sense to me. Most of the work's done, but I guess the question that would piggyback off that we haven't really answered or talked about is what are we currently doing that's important besides, I guess you did answer the sewer thing that you were just talking about, but what else are we currently working on, and or what were we working on with this past legislative session?
So the past legislative session, we went and, so, like I said earlier, our sewer project was shovel-ready, right? That was one of the benefits that got us the money. And so this year we asked, I can't remember how much, $350 or something. It was a small amount.
Well,
to
because,
finish.
and just to answer
Go
that,
ahead.
because we had asked for $1 million. And so I felt like it was a good opportunity for us to go back because we got $650. So I thought we can go back and ask for, you know, for $350 during the legislative session. But truly the likelihood of us being able to get a legislative appropriation literally within weeks after we got the check, you know, from the $650 was pretty low. But again, we are still working through that like there are other avenues other than just the legislative appropriation. So the first $875 that we talked about, like you said, Mayor, didn't come. The grant process actually showed up in like August, right?
Yeah, it was much later. I know it was hot when I was on the phone with you.
But it was because money was appropriated into this fund during the legislative session. And so again, it's not always going to happen in March, right? In January, February, and March. There's opportunities all the way through the process. The legislature has this mentality of, you know, they can appropriate money into a fiscal year and then, you know, for a broader purpose, and then oftentimes they'll hone in on those throughout the year, create their process or whatever else, and then go from that point. So to answer your question, Councilmember Favero, we still have, you know, the legislature knows that we still have a $350,000 ask to try and finish out the sewer project. That's still on the table. That's still a request, and I think that we're actively working towards making that happen, even though the legislative session is over. I'm sorry if I cut you off.
No, you're okay.
But we do also have other things that we're working on. Like I said, Mayor mentioned the EPA stuff. I think that's major. And the only other thing that's really been brought up to me as a major priority for the city was from Councilmember Beal when I reported a couple of months ago. She asked me to keep my eyes open for opportunities in parks for special needs kids and things like that, and I think that that's important as well. And those are a little tougher because as much as sewer plants aren't generally funded by the state, parks are even harder to get funded by the state because there's just so many of them, right? And the legislature is a little bit wary of saying, you know, why would I pick a park in Plain City instead of a park in Rose Park or whatever? But that doesn't mean that it's impossible, and I explained that to Councilmember Beal at the time. It's a matter of opportunity and timing and being in the right place, being in the game, like we said, and we're actively looking for opportunities there as well. And then, you know, I do work closely with the mayor because, as we talked before, I do feel like it's important for you to have a point person, so that I'm not confused by, you know, 5 or 6 different voices. Doesn't mean any of you can't talk to me anytime you want, and if you want to set up any kind of a process by which there's a member of the council that we talk with as well, I'm happy to do that, or all members, and I will always take a phone call from any of you. But again, sometimes we're just playing defense, right? We've always got an offensive play, and sometimes we have some defensive plays as well.
So
We
right
as a
now-
council need to get together and figure out what our priorities are, so he can look for the money for it.
Yeah.
So, to answer your question though, as of right this second, we don't have another pressing project.
Funding.
Other than the sewer EPA thing.
Yeah, yep, working on that. But to that, we just went through that budget discussion last month where we're gonna do the plans, right? So those are we'll be identifying projects through the plans, and those will create, you know, items for Carrie to go for. And we can have a work meeting anytime if we wanna sit down and, when we wanna sit and talk about those. So, and we can do those as the plans come up, so that we can focus on once that, you know, whether it's transportation, whether it's a sewer, whatever plan comes first. So, those will identify projects.
Okay. Couple, unless somebody else has.
Yeah, go ahead.
The only other, whether it passes or not, that's to be determined, right? But the one thing that I would say is Brandon's recommendations of the year, Carrie spoke about that. I'm not a fan of the automatic renewal on any contract, especially if you don't have an expiration date and a limitation on that. And I get that you can cancel it within 30 days, but it keeps it way too open if we forget about it like we did this year, because that's essentially what we did, right? Carrie, you took ownership on that, and I think the city needs to as well. I also understand that you went through the legislative session. A lot of your work is been performed, right? So I think we need to keep that in mind. And then, like you said, the 30 days is already in there. I'm looking at the contract. I don't think this is the latest and greatest, at least from what Carrie was saying and what the mayor said. This might be a little bit different one than we got in the packet, maybe. Because this one says 24 months, but.
Well, and that was just because, so again, I was responding to the concern that maybe we weren't even under contract now.
Right, okay.
So 24 months starting in last January.
Gotcha.
Running through the next January. And council member, I'm totally fine to do a 12-month,
right,
you know, with the 30-day out. Like I'm totally fine with that, as long as the council understands that we're kind of working on a 12-month thing. Like if you're going to give me a 30-day notice, it needs to be like, I don't need to write it in a contract, but I want you to understand that it's because you're not happy with my performance or something, not just because, you know, we front-loaded things, we got you some money, and then we don't need you anymore. You know what I mean? Like I said, most of my counterparts require the payment up front, and you know, and I just want you to look at it as a 12-month contract if you can, right?
well, to me, that's what I've said. That makes sense, because this is, again, my opinion, one person, but if you do all your work in January and February and we pay you 2 months worth and get rid of you the next month after that, that's not very fair either, right?
Not at all.
I hope we all understand that. Yeah. The only other thing that I have, and I'm going to say it because I said it last year, and I said it through the budget process last year and this year, is I think we have other needs. Whether or not this is where we get the funding for the other needs is another question, but there's no doubt in my mind we need a planner to help us with that process. That isn't just my opinion, it's my observation. I believe we've all talked about it on a council level, but also the Planning Commission has talked about it, and that process needs to be cleaned up. Whether or not that's through some of these things from the Hanson Group, I think that's going to help. But I also think we need somebody on staff that can help with that. And then also, there's also talks of having a manager to help manage the day-to-day too. Whether or not that's a position that's one and the same, I have no idea. I'd like to have a conversation about that. I don't know if, you know, today's not really the day to talk about that, other than this is a lot of money. It's $42,000 that could potentially be put to that if we think that's a bigger priority, which whether it is or it isn't, I don't know. They're both very important. But on a day-to-day, I think the other has been very alarming in the past year and a half that I've been on the council. It needs to be more streamlined, and to me, that's the way to do it, is get somebody to help. So that's my 2 cents.
Did you say 42,000?
I think that's what it is, right?
For this, I just did his 3,500 times 12 is 10,500.
No, times 12. Right.
3,500.
And if I misspoke on the amount, then
It's close to
let's
that.
just get the right amount so we don't mistreat anybody there, yeah.
Well, my math was 42,000.
Okay,
Yeah,
so I did
okay.
I missed a 0.
And a 4.
And I,
I was like,
Terry's
this-
not gonna want the contract. That's
I recognize that that's, you know, that's a lot of money for a small city, I really do. And I've been in the position you are, where you're trying to prioritize every penny, and I respect that. I really do. I would just ask you to look at it and say, okay, what are we getting in return for that 42,000? And right now I can point to 1.5 million right off the bat, plus a whole bunch of other things, like we talked about, with legislation. So I think it's well worth it, but I realize, man, you guys have tough decisions, and I respect that 100%.
Yeah, and Carrie, however long ago it was, we voted for it. When you were approved the first time, if you remember, I'm sure you remember better than anybody, I was the one person on the council that voted no. And with the money that you've been able to find that was, given to Plain City, you've changed my mind. So I think even though 42,000 is a lot of money, it pales in comparison to the money that you've been able to get appropriated towards Plain City. So that's my point of view.
Appreciate that.
He changed my mind.
Thank you. That's my goal.
I remember looking at Jed, I was like, he better earn his money back.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have any questions?
Mm-mm.
Jan, do you have anything?
So the contract that we're looking at right now, when is the expiration date on that? You know how I like to know when things start and when they end.
The contract says it'll go for 2 years, and then it will just keep continuing until otherwise, unless we change the contract.
With the 30-day out clause, though.
With the 30-day out clause.
Which,
24 months.
yeah, it would have started in last January.
The 2 years starting last January.
Yeah, January 1st, 2025.
I thought that I took out the
Let me,
in that last one, but I don't remember for sure. And I don't care how you want to do it. If you want to do it, if you want to see me back here in 3 months, for next year, fine. I was just trying to cover what's passed with the assumption that there was concern whether or not we were actually under contract.
okay, it
And
says
then-
effective January 1st, 2025, and shall be effective for a base period of 24 months and automatically renewed annually thereafter on the 1st January of every year, terminated by either party with 30 days written notice after completion of the base period. So that would be after
So you would
the
want to
two,
take,
And the only-
after the 24 months,
After, yeah.
then you can do the 30 days, I think. After completion of the
what-
base period, then you can terminate it within 30 days.
Again,
Can I ask why we went from 12 months to 24?
just because where we're starting at here at the middle of May, and we didn't renew it back in the 1st of January.
Yeah, but we've still been paying him, so,
Yeah, so we can cut it to where he comes back in December.
6 months. 6 or 7 months, not a few. There's 6 or 7 months between now and November, December.
Yeah. We can write the contract to say that if we want to. It's fine, however.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, my recommendation is to, excuse me, change it so that it's a yearly contract. So it ends December 31st of 2025. And then if we want to, we do it again in December to renew it for the next year.
Okay, and we'll take out the automatic renewal.
Correct.
Okay.
I would request that we do it in November, sometime in November, so that I can know what I'm doing going into the legislative session. And frankly, there is a lot of work goes into preparing for the legislative session as well. And so, like I said, I felt like the city was protected well with the 30-day out, as long as that is clear. But I'm happy to write this any way that you would like it. I would need to know if I'm going to be working in the next legislative session. I need to know for sure before December, so that we're.
So by
and if
November.
you want to see me again in 6 months, I'm happy to do that.
I would like to see that.
It's night. So, I guess, Jan, with what you're saying, and Carrie, what you're saying, we switch it to expire November of 2025, and then we renew it, have the potential to renew it.
For the next year, starting on November. Is that what you're saying?
The contract would actually say January to December, but I'd want to be in
Oh.
front of, I'd want to be in.
That's what I was
Right.
asking.
Exactly.
Right.
That's easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would just come back in November.
I like them to be fiscal year contracts, or calendar year contracts.
Well, if that's the case, who's putting it in their calendar? Because that's really all that amounts to. We won't have that in the contract,
Okay, I'm good with that.
right?
Okay.
Okay.
Luigi, do you have anything?
No, I think all my questions were answered.
Okay, great. Any other discussion? How about a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the contract with Legislative Solutions as noted.
As noted or with changes?
Oh, with, yeah, I meant in,
Discussed.
as discussed, yeah. So with the changes that
Okay,
we've
so
talked about
the
today.
12 months from January 1 of 25
Yes.
to 26,
Yes,
and then he comes back in November,
yes.
and we take out the automatic renewal.
Automatically, yes.
Wait,
So,
see,
yes, as discussed, thank you.
I'll second.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second, but we'll explain it. So we're taking it from January 1 of 25, so we're backdating
Yep.
to 26, December 31st to 25, I guess. Yeah, sorry. And then we're taking out the automatic renewal.
Yep.
And
So it'll go through January 26th, 31st, I'm assuming.
well, we'll go to the 31st of December
Oh, okay,
of 25.
25, okay.
And then
But they'll come back November.
In November of 20,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, was that all of them? That was the only two changes,
I
right?
think that's what Jan,
Okay.
So it
Yeah.
says that we can cancel 30 days after the base period. That means we can't cancel
just
it all
strike
this
that,
year.
just strike that language.
So that's just gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again,
Okay.
Strike the 30-day language.
only reason for putting that.
Because we
just
don't
the
need that
base.
now.
Communicate that I needed it to look like a year contract.
I think no matter what, you want to keep the 30 day, I guess it could happen, but to protect the city, no matter what, I'd keep the 30 days. You're talking the base, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
okay, fair enough.
I'm happy to. Yep. I know where you're going, and I
Just get rid of the after the base.
got it.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a
My
second with
second's
those,
good?
what's that?
I said, is my second still good?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
We have a
Okay.
motion and a second, with the changes that were discussed, the two changes. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Oppose?
Well, I opposed it last time, but I think that at this point in time, we're already 5 months into it, and he's already done the work, so I'm going to vote yes on this. but I really want to dig into it before we meet again in November. So
Okay.
with that, aye.
All right, we can do that.
I would just add, feel free, any of you, including Councilmember Wilson, any who's, or Panunzio, who are not here in person, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to talk in person or here in the council meeting anytime.
Okay, thank you.
Works. Thank you.
All right, business licenses. Looks like we got some fireworks over at Kent's and a bounce house. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve the business licenses.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, pay the bills.
Sure.
Yeah, sorry, you two. I'll take a motion when ready.
I move to approve the warrant register for May 1st, 2025 to May 14th, 2025.
Second?
Second.
Roll call. Councilwoman Wilson.
Yes.
Councilman Panunzio.
Yes.
Right here.
Yes.
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 Great, thank you. All right. Next item is council reports. I'm going to start so I don't forget. Diane did forget to write one down for me, though. What was it? Yes, well, you didn't write that either.
You didn't need to write it. I was going to say that.
That was going to be your report?
Yeah, that was it.
No,
I'll go home.
kissing up. Okay, what was it that we talked about?
I don't know, I thought it was just Still Creek.
Oh, yeah, yes. So there is a piece of property that is part of Still Creek HOA. We have a lift station, so we've got a little chunk of it that's designated to deeded to Plain City. But it's just a wide open piece. There's a slim chance that we could section that off and turn it into a lot. They don't want it. They want to get rid of it, just because it's a maintenance thing for them. There is a house right next to it, and the lot would look just like the lot that it's next to. So I don't know. I don't think it's a 100% conforming lot. We got to look into that a little bit more. But does the council want to?
I made a copy of it for you guys.
Is that what this is?
It's all that paper.
Okay.
I have a chance to read it yet.
All right, yeah. So you can take that home and look at it, and we can talk about it next meeting.
I was going to say, I don't want to ask too many questions
Yeah,
where it wasn't on
yeah,
there.
and there's no motion or anything, this is just to bring it to your attention, so take it home, look at it, bring an opinion, and we'll go from there, okay? Second thing was, I sent the email out to all the council about our legal, Brandon. He couldn't be here tonight, he actually had a training for his new position, so he apologized. But I want to thank him for 18 years of service. He took a position with the state. I believe he's a judicial commissioner. Is that the correct title? And so he's going to be working for the state full-time. He'll cover Weber, Morgan, and Davis County. And so congratulations to him on that position. That's quite a deal. He put in for it and really didn't think he was going to get it, and it fell in his lap. So when things are right, you take them. And so congratulations to him on that new position. And we've got our RFP out tomorrow.
Well, I'm just waiting to hear from any of you, other than John.
You said if
Are
you
you
didn't
sure
hear
you
from
want to
us,
hear
we
from
would
me?
get-
I was thinking you were hoping I wouldn't sing.
So I'm
So
assuming what you're saying is it's good.
Yes.
Yes, no news is good news.
Yes.
So anyway, we're gonna start that process of receiving application packets from legal service, and we'll go through that hiring process, so.
Just a little update on that. We
You're probably gonna need that, yeah.
Contacted the county attorney's office, and there's a guy that's reached out to me, and he can temporarily fill in for prosecution for court until we get somebody else.
What about
But he's also,
full coverage?
huh?
What about full coverage?
Well, I
What if
think
Jed goes off the deep
I
end?
think we can work that too.
Done.
I think we
Already
can work
done.
out that too.
Okay.
There's a couple of guys that are interested in it there too, so.
Okay,
So I think we're gonna be all right.
okay. Yeah, we'll just need to lock somebody down as an interim until we get that full-time contract signed. So anyway, thank you, Brandon, for 18 years of service. He always treated us well. He was great to work with. I had about a 30-minute phone call with him, and he talked about how much he loved working with the mayors of Plain City and the area itself, and just thoroughly enjoyed all the office staff and everybody that he's worked with through the years. And so it was a good conversation, but all the best to him. I put a little, what's that?
Are we going to encourage the legal to try and be more present physically?
Yeah, well, yes.
Okay.
Stacy Dixon, the one that came in and presented about the play, you have a little packet here. She's found a venue. It's up at Barker, is it Barker Amphitheater? Is that what it's called? Up there in North Ogden. Anyway, she'd like some support from the city. If not, she's gonna try to get this out to the schools. There's a little coloring thing so the kids can get a free concession up there, but she's putting her show on. So, open that up to Plain City residents to go and try out and be a part of it. And there's a kids choir and everything that'll be involved. And so a lot of opportunity for those that want to try out their play type talents. I went on a tour of the assisted living center down here that's staged open Monday. I don't think their first residents will move in for a week or two after that. But it's a beautiful facility. They put a lot of thought into it. I know Councilwoman Beal went, and I saw Diane down there, and we're all in agreement that they did a fine job of creating a nice atmosphere for seniors that choose that. And, you know, it's me being a little Plain City prejudiced, but I love the fact that our residents have an option, you know, if a room's open when they get to that point. So it's nice that that option's there for them, and I'd be lying if I said I wouldn't welcome more, you know, as we grow and whatnot, welcome more of those facilities, because they did a fine job on that building. So thanks to Steve Diamond and his family for putting that all together over there, and I think it'll be a great addition to Plain City. So I think that's all I got. Councilwoman Wilson.
I got nothing to report.
Okay, you just get better, okay?
Feel better.
I'm working on it.
Councilman Panunzio.
Nothing. I'm sorry I got on late.
That's okay. I'm just glad you were able to get on, bud. Thank you.
Yep.
Councilman Favero.
Yeah, I think the only thing I have tonight was to thank the sheriff's office for de-escalating the situation the other day. I don't want to say too much because I don't really know all the details, but at the school there was some nervousness there with all the parents and everything. They had to go on, was it security? I believe is what they call it in the school.
Lockout.
Yeah. Yep. And so that was taken care of, and nobody was hurt, and all went well. So thank you.
All I have to report is that Diane's awesome.
Oh, I forgot that.
Nothing else to report.
Second.
Now we got favorites. You had your shot. You blew it at him.
Offed it.
Jeez, Jed.
Councilwoman Bill.
I've been seeing some things on Facebook and flyers, and it looks like Kent's is going to be very busy on Saturday. I think they're doing the Operation Homefront. They're going to be feeding the military. So it will be very busy, but you can still get your groceries and wave to the military. And thank you to Kent's and all of the supporters that go out and support our military every day.
Yes.
And they are looking for volunteers to help set up flags on Friday. So if anybody would like to volunteer, there is a flyer on Facebook of who to get a hold of for that. I'm not sure what time they're meeting. I think it's 6 o'clock at the Kent's parking lot. But look on Facebook, or you can give me a call. I've got a picture of it as well, so I can look it up. So yeah, council, we're all invited to attend and help shove bags in cars, and I've done it for the last 3 years, and it's a great opportunity to thank a service member as they come through, and there's some great feel-goods right there.
Lots of tears.
Kent's does an amazing job. The gal that sets this up, her name's Katie, and she does a phenomenal job with the military and takes care of them. She works for Kent's. So anyway, we're all invited to go and attend that and be a part of that. So if you can come for an hour or half hour, whatever, or all day, whatever you can do, pop in and say hi. They'd appreciate it. Okay, with that, I think yes. Yes, greatest, Diane.
Too late, man.
You're my favorite.
Too late.
I got it.
Jed stole the show.
You know, we got the general plan grant.
Yes.
And so as part of that, we've got to do a scope and look and put out an RFP basically for a firm to help us through that process. Because of the grant, we have to play by their rules and do that thing. So anyway, I just sent it to the Planning Commission today so that they can look over it. Hanson's have been helping us a little bit and preparing kind of a scope. I want you to see if you'll look through it and just see if we're missing something or if something's not quite right. But I need your input, or none if you think it's great, by next week sometime. So, but anyway, that email's gonna come out to you tomorrow, so. I
Okay.
figured I bugged you a lot this week, so I didn't wanna give you too much.
Thanks for not overwhelming us.
And I wanted to get the attorney one done first before I confused
Yeah.
you.
Okay, thank you. All right, now I think I just need one more motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Meeting adjourned. Oh, thank you, Luigi.
See you
Hey, have a
guys.
great time. Be safe, Luigi, out there. Get better, Jan.
Thanks. See you guys.
She sounds terrible. Yeah.
Oh, that was many.